Financial Services Board has launched a free online education program known as the Trustee Toolkit. This is in response to the need for education and development of retirement trustees. On successful completion of the program, trustees should be in a position to perform their duties much more efficiently and effectively. Well, to tell us more about this, I'm joined by Wilma Mokupo. She's Head of Department Prudential. Thanks very much for joining us, Wilma. The FSB launched the Trustee Toolkit in August 2011. What was behind that initiative?
Well, I think there was a huge outcry in the industry around trustee training, and no one was really taking the bull by the horns. And there was a lot of concern that trustee training was all over the place. And we just felt that as the Financial Services Board, being an independent body regulating the retirement fund industry, that we should step up to the plate and, provide an online free e-learning tool that, trustees can trust that they're getting the correct information.
Now, in your development of the Trustee Toolkit, what processes did you have to go through to ensure that it had the quality needed to be relevant to a South African market?
Well, firstly, we went to the UK for a study tour, and just to glean some ideas around how they were doing with their Trustee Toolkit, because it had a very resounding success in the UK. And on return, we felt that, we have some lessons that we can take from there, but to make a really very proudly South African toolkit that is relevant to the South African retirement fund industry and for the trustee. Obviously, adult learning in South Africa is also very different to the UK, and we felt that we really need to be proud of what we have. So we used the PF Circular, Pension Fund Circular PF 130 on good governance as the basis, because it really covers everything that a trustee would encounter during their term of office.
Now, just give us an example. When someone goes on the website, what sort of things will they see?
Well, firstly, they would have obviously the tutorial itself, and the tutor there is Samuel, so he will guide them through the learning experience. Obviously, there will be some formative assessments in between just to gauge the knowledge, and it's really a self-assessment. It's a private learning opportunity for a trustee, so the registrar doesn't, for example, have access to the scores and the progress, etc. This is housed in our consumer education department. So what you find is that it's really a private learning experience, but as a group, you could also test each other's knowledge and do the online together, which is also a nice way of making sure that all trustees are on the same page. And then you also go through what we call case studies, which is really in the form of a game board to make it just more relaxed, more easy, accessible and friendly. And that just again tests the knowledge that you've learned in the various units, and it just guides you through the correct decision-making process, what due diligences you need to take care of and observe. And I think it gives the trustee a personal sense of accomplishment, and to see also on a personal level, where do they need to touch up on their learning.
Now, to what extent have you put the word out to the industry, and what sort of reaction have you had to those who've actually engaged with it?
Well, we had a very good feedback from the focus group, because what we did right in the beginning in 2010 was to do an online focus group where we invited some trustees from various funds to try it out, tell us what they've experienced, and we've actually loaded that on the tool so learners and participants can actually listen to what other participants have experienced. There's also a feedback button, so that gave us also a sense of what are some of the technical glitches in the beginning of just making sure that the navigation tool is appropriate and understandable and user-friendly. And from those focus groups, we then went back to the drawing board. We did the refinement, etc., to make sure there's good quality and it also is relevant for every trustee.
Now, we know currently the toolkit is a voluntary thing, but what are the plans going forward to make it a less voluntary arrangement?
Well, there are some discussions for pensions reform through the industry at present, and there are some proposals that National Treasury have put forward around what would be a minimum qualification for trustees. But the toolkit is really looking at competencies, because you have to be a competent trustee and you have to be confident in what you're doing so that you can deliver what you need to deliver to your membership. And I think from our side, we felt that it was important that we set these competency levels. But what we want to do going forward is that should it become a compulsory requirement going forward for pensions reform, we already kicked off the process of getting the toolkit accredited. So we are in discussions with INCETA, with the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations, so that we make sure that it ticks the boxes from the South African Qualifications Authority's point of view. Now that is quite an iterative process over the next 4 to 6 months that we will be embarking on, but there'll certainly be a lot of participation from trustees and stakeholders within the industry through that process to again make sure that it's top-notch quality and relevant.
Now, one of your key selling points about the toolkit is that it will improve governance. How so?
Well, I think it's very important that trustees must understand the environment in which they're operating, which can be quite daunting for a new trustee. Remember, trustees come from various backgrounds. Some are employer appointed, which you usually find is the financial director or the CFO or executives. And the members elect people that they trust, that they know have their best interests at heart. So sometimes you do find a disparity between the two. But we're saying that once you're on the board, you know you're jointly and severally liable, and you only have one objective in mind, and that is to take care of the members' lifelong savings, because this is really their nest egg. And trustees must make sure that at the end of the day, they promise that they keep must be there on delivery for when the members require that benefit, whether it is a death benefit should you die too soon, and if you live too long, that it provides you with a sustainable income. And I think trustees need to understand the landscape in which they operate, not only the Pension Funds Act, but the rules of the fund. So it doesn't really matter what your background is. At the end of the day, a trustee is a trustee is a trustee. You need to understand the rules of your fund, you need to understand basic investment principles, you need to understand some bookkeeping and accounting around that, because you know you have to follow the money, make sure it's safe, you have to make prudent investments, and you have to communicate with your members, most importantly.
Now, after all that wonderful information from yourself, where can trustees get this information from?
Well, the toolkit itself has got all the governance frameworks in place. So when they go to the toolkit website through www.trusteetoolkit.co.za, or they can go through the FSB website, www.fsb.co.za, and go to the consumer education page, because they are the custodians for this toolkit. And there's also opportunities for them to attend our road shows that we will be embarking on shortly, where they can, if members don't all have access to a computer because they don't work in the office environment or it's inaccessible to them, there will be a print option. There'll also be a DVD option and a CD option, so that you can just listen to Samuel the tutor as he guides you through your learnings. And you can listen to the CD, you know, in your car or in the taxi, wherever you are, and just go through the learning. So if you've got a risk management workshop coming up, you can listen to the particular unit that guides you through sound risk management principles.
When will you embark on the road shows, and will you be covering the whole country, all the provinces?
Yes, we're hoping to cover the main centres in the country, and there will be a lot on our website around that, also a lot of media coverage around that. And we're hoping that this particular interview will be the launch pad for that process to kick off shortly.
Wilma, what makes it exciting to engage with the toolkit?
Well, I think it's captivating because it's your personal learning journey through the toolkit. And I think what we've tried to do is to create a scenario, which is a situation that a normal course of business for a trustee would encounter in their term of office. And I think it's quite interesting because it allows you to go through the decision-making process, look at some of the pitfalls, the concerns, some of the unintended consequences. And what we've also done to make it relevant is to make sure that we base it on real-life scenarios, real situations. Some of them are gleaned from some of the on-site visits that we've done, or some of the complaints that we've received from members. So it's really a real-life experience. Obviously, we've tried to protect the identities of the funds to make it more exciting, more interesting. And some of the learnings are very serious when it comes to governance and actuarial issues, but there are also some of the other lighter topics, you know, within the toolkit. It also assists with conflicts of interest to make sure that trustees know how to behave with integrity and honesty, and to be worthy of integrity and honesty in return.
Wilma, just tell us, why is the trustee and governance so important?
Well, Nompo, I think the ordinary worker is making a salary sacrifice to put away money for a rainy day, like retirement, or if the unfortunate event occurs, if there was a disability or a death. And I think it's based on trust. And it's very important that trustees take good care of this money as custodians, because it really does impact on the economy. I mean, pension funds make up 2.4 trillion rands within our economy. That's about 74% of our GDP, the gross domestic product. They also invest in the JSE, which then affects the market capitalization of the JSE, in insurance, in private equity, etc., for infrastructural development. So I think it plays a very significant role in terms of growing our economy and making sure that when people are then become frail and old and they can no longer be economically active, that they have this important safety net and their trustees have kept their promises to their members.
Thanks very much, Wilma. Some insights there on the Trustee Toolkit for Retirement Trustees from Wilma Mokupo, Head of Department Prudential at the Financial Services Board. Remember, you can get more information from the website at www.trusteetoolkit.co.za. But from me and the rest of the team, goodbye.